Fluoride. Few words in health start an argument this fast. To one side, it's a miracle that saved millions of teeth. To the other, it's a chemical being forced into our water that we should be terrified of. So which is it, hero or villain? Today, I'm going to cut through the noise and the conspiracy theories and just look at what the actual science says, the good, the concerns, and the real answer about safety and dose. No agenda, just the evidence. Let's settle this. Heads up, I'll give a balanced look at both sides, and you can make up your own mind. Quick disclaimer up top, I'm a content creator, not your dentist or doctor, so take this as education, not personal medical advice. Now, here's the thing that makes fluoride confusing. Both sides are actually pointing at something real. Fluoride genuinely does protect teeth. That's not in dispute among dental scientists. And it's also true that too much fluoride causes real problems. The whole debate basically comes down to one word: dose. So let's start with what fluoride even is and what it does. Then tackle the concerns head on. So what does fluoride do for your teeth? Remember the constant tug of war in your mouth? Acid pulling minerals out of enamel, saliva putting them back? Fluoride is like a cheat code for the putting back side. First, when your enamel is remineralizing, fluoride gets incorporated into the new surface and forms a tougher, more acid-resistant mineral. So fluoride rebuilt enamel is actually stronger than the original. It can withstand acid attacks that would have damaged untreated enamel. Second, it helps reverse those very early white spot lesions before they become cavities. And third, at higher concentrations, it even interferes with the bacteria's ability to produce acid in the first place. It's genuinely effective. This part isn't really controversial. The evidence here is actually a great science story. Back in the early 20th century, researchers noticed people in certain towns had oddly stained teeth but almost no cavities. They tracked it down to naturally high fluoride in the local water. That led to controlled studies, and when towns started adding small, controlled amounts of fluoride to drinking water in the 1940s, childhood cavity rates dropped dramatically compared to towns without it. Water fluoridation has been called one of the major public health achievements of the 20th century by health authorities, mainly because it helped everyone, including kids who couldn't afford regular dental care. That's the hero case, and it's well documented. Now let's take the concerns seriously, because some of them are real, not just internet panic. The most established one is dental fluorosis. If kids get too much fluoride while their adult teeth are still forming under the gums, it can cause faint white streaks, or in more significant cases, brown staining and pitting on the enamel. Mostly this is cosmetic, but it's real, and it's exactly why kids' toothpaste has used only a tiny smear, and why you teach kids to spit, not swallow. There's also skeletal fluorosis, a bone problem, but that requires very high, prolonged exposure, far above normal levels. It's rare in places with controlled fluoridation, and mostly seen where natural fluoride levels in water are extremely high. So the concerns are dose-dependent, which is the whole point. And that's the central principle of toxicology. The dose makes the poison. This isn't unique to fluoride. It's true of basically everything. Water itself is fatal in huge enough quantities. The amount of fluoride in properly fluoridated water and in your toothpaste is calibrated to be enough to protect teeth, but far below the level that causes harm. The danger isn't fluoride existing, it's getting too much of it, like a kid eating tubes of toothpaste, or naturally extreme levels in some groundwater. So, is fluoride safe is the wrong question. Is this dose safe is the right one, and at normal recommended levels, the scientific consensus from major health bodies is that it's safe and beneficial. That said, the appropriate level has been reviewed and adjusted over time as research evolves, which is science working as intended. To be fair to the other side, the conversation isn't totally frozen. There's legitimate, ongoing scientific discussion and new research. For example, studies looking at whether high fluoride exposure during pregnancy and infancy could affect development, and these are being actively studied and debated by serious researchers. Some places have chosen to stop water fluoridation, partly because fluoride is now widely available in toothpaste anyway, so the added benefit from water is smaller than it was in the 1940s. None of that makes fluoride a villain, but it's fair to say the science is living and being refined, not carved in stone, and reasonable experts can weigh the public water question differently. Here's a really useful nuance that resolves a lot of the worry. Modern understanding is that fluoride works mostly topically, meaning it does its main job by being in contact with your teeth from toothpaste, not by being swallowed and absorbed. That's a big deal, because it means you get most of the cavity-fighting benefit from simply brushing with fluoride toothpaste and spitting it out. You don't need to swallow it. So if someone is uneasy about ingesting fluoride, the practical takeaway is the toothpaste on the surface of your teeth is doing the heavy lifting, either way. So what should you actually do? For most adults, brushing twice daily with a regular fluoride toothpaste and spitting, not rinsing, is a simple, well-supported way to protect your teeth. For young kids, use only a tiny rice grain to pea-sized smear, supervise brushing, and teach them to spit so they don't swallow excess while their adult teeth are forming. If you're on a private well, it's worth getting your water tested, since natural fluoride can be too low, or in some areas too high. And if you have specific concerns, especially during pregnancy or for infants, that's a great conversation to have with your actual dentist or doctor who knows your situation. Let's zoom out, because fluoride toothpaste and water aren't the only ways the topic shows up, and there are alternatives worth understanding. Your dentist can apply a concentrated fluoride varnish during a visit, which is common for both kids and adults at higher cavity risk. And there are higher strength prescription toothpastes for people who get cavities easily. On the flip side, if someone genuinely wants to avoid fluoride, the most talked about alternative is hydroxyapatite toothpaste. Hydroxyapatite is basically the same mineral your enamel is already made of, and the idea is that it can help remineralize teeth through a different route. Early evidence is interesting, and some people use it specifically as a fluoride-free option, though fluoride still has the longest and deepest track record behind it. There's also xylitol, a natural sweetener found in some gums and toothpastes that doesn't feed the cavity bacteria and may help reduce them. It's a complement, not a replacement for cleaning. The point is, this isn't an all-or-nothing thing. There's a spectrum of tools, and the right mix depends on your personal cavity risk, which is a great conversation to have with your dentist rather than a stranger online. I'm laying out options for awareness, not telling you what to put in your mouth. That's between you and your dental professional.
Since fluoride is a magnet for scary headlines, let me give you something more useful than a verdict, a way to think about the claims yourself, because this skill applies way beyond fluoride. First, watch for the dose trick. A claim like "studies link fluoride to harm" often quietly involves doses far higher than what's in your water or toothpaste. And remember, the dose makes the poison. The amount is the entire question. Second, separate a study's limitation from a disproof. "We don't have great long-term trials" is not the same as "it's been proven harmful." Those are completely different statements that headlines love to blur. Third, check who's saying it and whether they're representing the weight of the evidence or cherry-picking one study that fits a narrative. Real scientific consensus is built from many studies, not one viral paper. Fourth, notice certainty. Anyone selling you absolute fear or absolute safety is oversimplifying. Real science speaks in, "At these levels, the evidence suggests," and it updates as new research comes in, which is a feature, not a weakness. And fifth, for anything that actually affects your health decisions, especially during pregnancy or for infants, talk to a professional who knows your situation instead of outsourcing the call to whoever has the loudest video. Being a calm, curious skeptic who follows the evidence is genuinely the healthiest stance on fluoride and on basically everything in health. Let me land this with a practical bottom line, broken down by who you are. And remember, this is general education, not personal medical advice. For most adults, brushing twice daily with a standard fluoride toothpaste and spitting, not rinsing, is a simple, well-supported way to protect your teeth. That's the mainstream recommendation from major dental bodies. For young kids, the key is amount and supervision. Just a tiny rice grain to pea-sized smear, and teach them to spit so they're not swallowing excess while their adult teeth are still forming under the gums. That's how you avoid the fluorosis concern. If you're on a private well, get your water tested, because natural fluoride can be either too low to help or in some regions high enough to be a concern. And for anyone with specific worries, particularly during pregnancy or for infants, that's genuinely a conversation worth having with your own dentist or doctor who knows your full picture, rather than letting a video or a viral post make the call for you. Tailor it to your situation, lean on the evidence, and ask real professionals the personal questions.
Final word on the whole hero or villain question, because I want you to thinking clearly rather than just picking a side. Fluoride is a tool, and a genuinely effective one for preventing cavities. And like every tool, the dose is the entire story. At the controlled levels in toothpaste and fluoridated water, the consensus of major health bodies is that it's safe and beneficial. In excess, it causes real, mostly cosmetic problems, which is precisely why those levels are controlled and reviewed. The science is strong, but still living and being refined. And asking good questions about it isn't anti-science, it's how science works. So, skip the panic and the blind cheerleading alike. Look at the dose, weigh the evidence, and take the personal questions to a professional who knows your situation. Final word on the whole hero or villain question, because I want you to thinking clearly rather than just picking a side. Fluoride is a tool, and a genuinely effective one for preventing cavities. And like every tool, the dose is the entire story. At the controlled levels in toothpaste and fluoridated water, the consensus of major health bodies is that it's safe and beneficial. In excess, it causes real, mostly cosmetic problems, which is precisely why those levels are controlled and reviewed. The science is strong, but still living and being refined. And asking good questions about it isn't anti-science, it's how science works. So, skip the panic and the blind cheerleading alike. Look at the dose, weigh the evidence, and take the personal questions to a professional who knows your situation.